Hey, what's going on, everybody? Okay, we're here now in the trigonometry series, and what we're talking about here is a very important concept in trigonometry. So we're gonna go over this thoroughly and get through this together. And basically, what we're going over is what is called the unit circle. And what the unit circle is a circle with the radius of 1. And with this circle, you will solve many equations in trigonometry. So we're going to go through it piece by piece. So let's go ahead and get started. All right. First thing, what you have here is a circle split in 4 parts. All right. You have your first quadrant, you have your second quadrant, you have your third quadrant, and you have your fourth quadrant. All right. In your first quadrant, your x and your y's are both positive. All right. In your second quadrant, your x is negative, but your y's are positive. In the third quadrant, your x is negative and your y is negative as well. All right. In the fourth quadrant, your x is positive, but your y is negative. All right. So with this, when you think of x and y, we want to think cosine and sine. All right. Think of your cosine as your x and your sine as your y. All right. So let's go through this piece by piece. All right. All right. In your first quadrant, you have 0 degrees right here. All right. And your points are your cosine is 1 and your sine is 0. All right. So those are your points for 0 degrees. And then you have 30 degrees right here. All right. And your points for 30 degrees is your cosine is square root 3 over 2 and your sine is 1/2. All right. And you got 45 degrees right here. All right. And in 45 degrees, your cosine is square root 2 over 2 and your sine is also square root 2 over 2. All right. And you have 60 degrees right here. All right. In 60 degrees, your cosine is 1/2 and your sine is square root 3 over 2. All right. So we have 0 degrees, 30 degrees, 45 degrees, and 60 degrees. And that completes the first quadrant. All right. So then we have 90 degrees right here. All right. And at 90 degrees, your cosine is 0, but your sine is 1. All right. So 90 degrees, your cosine is 0, but the sine is 1. All right. So then, all right. So that completes the first quadrant. All right. So now we're on the second quadrant. And your first point on your second quadrant, you have 120 degrees. All right. And your cosine on 120 degrees is negative 1/2. And your sine is square root 3 over 2. All right. So that's 120 degrees. Your cosine is negative 1/2 and your sine is square root 3 over 2. All right. And you have 135 degrees. All right. 135 degrees. And at 135 degrees, your cosine is negative square root 2 over 2. And your sine is square root 2 over 2. All right. So those are your points at 135 degrees. And at 150 degrees, you have your cosine at negative square root 3 over 2. And your sine is 1/2. Alright. Alright, so that's half of the unit circle right there. You got the first quadrant and you have your second quadrant. 120, 120 degrees, 135 degrees, and 150 degrees. And then like half circle, at the half point, you are at 180 degrees. Alright. And at 180 degrees, your cosine is -1 and your sine is 0. Alright. Those are your points in 180 degrees. So now we are in the third quadrant. So let's get to the third quadrant. Your first point in the third quadrant is 210 degrees. All right. And at 210 degrees, your cosine is -√3/2, and your sine is -1/2. All right. So at 210 degrees, you got -√3/2, and you got -1/2. All right. So your next point, we're at 225. 225 degrees. Your cosine is -√2/2 and -√2/2. So your sine and cosine are both √2/2 at 225 degrees. All right. So next, we have 240 degrees. All right. We got 240 degrees. So at 240 degrees, your cosine is -1/2 and your sine is -√3/2. All right. So this is the third quadrant. All right. Yeah. 210 degrees, 225 degrees, 240 degrees, and your cosine points and your sine points. All right. And at the 3/4 mark, we have 270 degrees. One second. All right, we have 270 degrees. All right. And your cosine at 270 degrees is 0, and your sine is -1. All right. So at the 3/4 mark of the circle, you have a cosine of 0 and a sine of -1. All right. So now we are in the fourth quadrant. This is the final quadrant of the unit circle. All right. Now your point here, you have 300 degrees right here. All right. And at 300 degrees, you have a cosine of 1/2, and you have a sine of -√3/2. Remember, your cosine is positive and your sine is negative in the fourth quadrant. All right. So then you have 315 degrees. All right. And on this one, your cosine is √2/2, and your sine is -√2/2. All right. And then you have finally 330 degrees. All right. And on this one, your cosine is √3/2, and your sine is -1/2. And then we're back to 0, but at this point we say 360 degrees. All right. A full circle is 360 degrees, and the points are the same as 0 degrees. You have a cosine of 1 and a sine of 0. All right. So this completes the entire unit circle. And pretty much the way to grasp this circle it's gonna take practice, 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 and repetition. You're not gonna look at this video the first time and get it, like that. I'm not saying you won't, but I doubt you will. But practice make perfect. So this completes the unit circle introductory, and see you in the next video.